Hi everybody, it's Mike here from The Art of Guitar. I once had a student that started guitar lessons, and he told me that one of his major goals was to play a Van Halen solo. And he thought it was like way in the future that he was going to be able to finally play it, but I gave him the news that he was going to be able to play the solo in a very short amount of time. So I wanted to make this video to teach you what I taught him to be able to play the solo so quickly. So for beginners, I think it's going to be really surprising how fast you're able to play a Van Halen solo. And then for the more experienced players out there are some details that might shock you that I didn't know about with this solo until I really started to dive deep to really figure it out. So many of you may have already guessed the song. It's Ain't Talking About Love off of their debut album. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this mini lesson into 3 simple parts that almost anybody should be able to do. And while I'm teaching those parts, I'm going to talk about those details that I discovered. Just to let you know, this song is tuned down half a step, so if you're a beginner, you might have to do some research on how to do that if you're trying to tune your guitar on your own. You can also check out the website. We talk about, drop tuning and all that kind of stuff. But basically, if you're in standard tuning, every string is going to be down 1/2 step. So it'll be E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, B flat, and E flat. Or D sharp, G sharp, C sharp, F sharp, A sharp, and D sharp, depending if you're using sharps or flats. Okay, so a lot of beginners can pick notes and slide up the strings. That's why I know a lot of people can do this right off the bat. So let's go to the 2nd string, 5th fret. We're gonna pick and slide and just follow the tab. Pretty simple, right, so far? If you have to, you can go back, try it again as many times as you need to. You can also use the slowdown feature in YouTube. Okay, the next part. So far, all this is done on 1 string. Okay, then the part after that goes like this. Now, some of you might be thinking, where's that cool ending part? We'll get to that in a little bit. The second part of this whole thing, all we're gonna do is we're going to add the open 1st string to what we just played. Now, here's the little secret about this. Every time you pick a note on the 2nd string, also pick the open 1st string. Notice I don't pick the 1st string when I'm sliding. I only pick the 1st string when I pick something on the 2nd string. The next part. I love the sound of those 2 strings fighting each other sometimes, and sometimes they're in harmony with each other. It's a great thing. Stevie Ray Vaughan does that quite a bit with the open E string trick. It's a great thing to add to your playing. Now the end takes a little bit of explanation, but this is where I'm going to talk about some of those wild, surprising details that I found out about. So I guess Eddie didn't think the solo was fat enough sounding in the recording studio, so he actually overdubbed an electric sitar in the other channel. So what that means is if you're wearing headphones, one of the guitar solos is going to be in one ear, and then the electric sitar is going to be in the other ear. And what's crazy is the beginning, they pretty much do the same thing. You know, the main guitar does some fancy things, but not that much different. But at the very end of the solo, they both do different parts. Kind of like that Crazy Train Anomaly video that I did, where Randy Rhoads kind of does the same thing. So the electric guitar is doing one thing, and the electric sitar does something completely different, and it creates this amazing sound together. So the main electric guitar does a more difficult thing. I don't expect beginners to do this, but... So that takes a lot of practice, a lot of technique. So what I'm going to talk about is what the sitar does. By the way, if you don't know what a sitar is, think like George Harrison, kind of that Eastern sounding instrument. But I believe Eddie's playing a 6-string electric sitar. So it's not like the authentic sitar sound, but it's close. It still has that twang to it. So the sitar part's actually going like this. This surprised me. Now, when I heard that, the light bulb went off in my head, and I'm like, beginners can play this. Maybe not very, very beginners, but if you've been playing for a very short amount of time and you could do bends, you should be able to do this part. So what it is, it's a bend and then you double pick. Now, the authentic way to do it is to stop the string when you double pick every time. But you don't necessarily have to do that to sound like the solo. If you don't do this stop pick technique, which is a little more intermediate, you could just pick and let the string flow. So what does the solo sound like if you play it like that? I'm gonna add some phase to it. It's gonna sound like this. Now, of course, people might say that's not really the solo because you're not doing the main part. Well, it is actually in there, and you could prove it just by having them listen to the one side of the headphones. I have a lot of faith that newer guitar players can play that walk down at the end because a lot of newer guitar players are really good at box-shaped pentatonic walks. If you're practicing like this, a lot of that stuff in the beginning of guitar lessons. Well, if you walk down, it's the same idea. We just do a little shift at the end, which I know people can handle. Now here's good news. If you can't quite do that, if you listen to the second time he runs through the solo, he doesn't even do the picking and the walk downs. He just holds a bend and then lets it go slowly. So technically you could play the solo by just doing a big bend at the end like this. They just slowly released it. So that's your third option. That's the easiest. So the ending the solo, if you do it the easiest way, will just sound like this. Now that you've seen the video, I'd be really interested if you're a newer guitar player, if you can give the solo a try, follow the tab in the lesson that I showed you, and then maybe record yourself playing it and send it to me, or just let me know in the comments section if you were able to play it in a very short amount of time. I'd be really curious to see if it worked as well for you as it did for my student. All right, everyone, hopefully that was fun and interesting. Like I said, even if you're a more advanced player, a lot of people don't really know what happens at the end of that solo because so many people, when they play the cover, they just do the harder part with the dive bomb. So to hear that other part in the background, it was really interesting to me at least. So, okay, everyone, we'll catch you at the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.